name is Beck and welcome to a magical readathon vlog. This is the continuation of the first part. If you've missed it, I'll link it for you to check out. I am currently in the middle of the map, so I read 2 books in my previous vlog and now I'm at the prompt, which is The Mist of Solitude, which is read a standalone book. So when I initially put this to be read pile together, I'm revealing everything to myself step by step. So I made a to be read pile previously, and now that the readathon is actually happening during September, I'm going back and consulting my old list, but only doing it one by one as I complete each book, so it's kind of a surprise to me. So when I got to this prompt, which was read a standalone book, I'd actually penciled in Middle Game by Sean Maguire, and I've quite enjoyed her Every Heart a Doorway series. I haven't enjoyed some of her other stuff, so this was kind of the clincher for me. I want to see if I like her stuff. I know this follows twins, they're 2 siblings. I think they have some kind of telepathic connection, and there's also magic and alchemy in here. Sounds pretty cool, right? But I thought, you know, it's pretty big. I'm in and out of a reading slump. I'm getting tired, I'm struggling. So I swapped it out and I actually put The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling on my TBR instead. And I'm 15 pages into this, and I think this follows a Chinese Australian girl, and her mother has depression and she's got to look after her 2 younger siblings. She also picks up a job, I think, at a restaurant, and then she runs into a boy there. But I've heard that it's quite succinct with all of its mental health representation in here, and so far it has definitely been that. I think it's going to be really interesting culturally, as well as just a hard-hitting young adult book. And when I pick up YA, I want it to kind of hard hit me. If it's contemporary, I want it to leave an impression, and I think that's what this is going to do. It's also a 5-star prediction of mine, and I'm hoping that it lives up to it. If you wanted to know the reading prompts as well for this readathon, I'll link everything down below in the description. But fingers crossed for me. Let's hope that I can get through more than 2 books in this vlog. I know my reading has been slower this year. I'm trying to be kinder to myself, but at the same time I've got so much that I'm excited to read. So I'm really anticipating my TBR, and actually revealing everything one by one has rejuvenated my excitement about reading. It's given me kind of a mystery and I'm quite enjoying myself. So hopefully I can get through this contemporary really quickly, and then after I do that I can dive into my next read, which I don't know what it is and I'm looking forward to it. Hello, it is a Sunday. I am 150 pages into my current read, which I'm very happy with. I'm quite enjoying this, and it actually influenced me so much that today we had dumplings for lunch because this book just makes me hungry and it keeps doing it. So I'm really enjoying this so far. At the moment it's sitting at around a 4 stars, but I'm obviously going to read more today. I just wanted to duck in because I have a few books and I wanted to unwrap them on camera. These are part of the order that I made in my last vlog, but only 1 book showed up in my last vlog, so in between starting this vlog and ending the other one, the others happened to arrive, so now I can finally open them. I think a few of them might form my October to be read list as well, so we'll see how we go. But anyway, this is the first parcel. It is the thinnest one. And it is Magic Bites by Elena Andrews. This is tiny. I didn't know this would be the mass market when I ordered it. I don't really like the mass market, but oh well, it'll have to do. It's nice and pocket size, I guess, to carry around with me. But I know this is a urban fantasy series that I've been meaning to start for a while, but I'm going to be rubbish at a synopsis because I've not heard it described except for once, and that didn't stick in my memory because I don't want to know too much about this going into it. I just know that it's been hyped up to me and I'm excited to try it. So I'll link all the GOODREADS stuff down below for this one, so if you want to know what an actual synopsis is, because I have no idea, I'll let you know down below. Hey! These are some Dresden Files books that I thought would be in my last vlog, and they did ship together. So I've got Side Jobs and Briefcases. I've got my review for Side Jobs on my channel already. Briefcases I haven't started yet because I'm only on the 14th Dresden book, I think, which is Cold Days, which I'm still reading. I've got 2 hours left and I'm quite enjoying myself. Not as good as the other books, but still really great. And I love the wizard detective urban fantasy magical vibe of it. Naturally, I'm into the series quite significantly, so that is why these are now with me as well. I'm reviewing them as I go, so it's nice to actually own the physical collection, especially when I'm listening to them on audiobook. So that is these 2. Alright, this is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. This is Kushal's Dart. Again, another urban fantasy which I've heard recommended by a friend. I'm pretty sure it's urban fantasy. This cover is just very typical of urban fantasy. Okay, I'm glad I'm going to be reading this at home. But again, this is the mass market paperback edition, and I don't like those editions particularly, but I guess I'm stuck with it now. So hopefully this will be good. The writing is actually quite large, even though it's a very thick, dense book. So fingers crossed that I can get through this. But this is very much an urban fantasy haul, I guess, in my preparation for October, because when I go into reading like spooky kinds of books, I don't read stuff that is horror or thriller predominantly. I like going for magic or supernatural, and so I guess this is the right angle for me to approach October with. So expect to see a few of these in my October TBR, but as it stands, that is my unboxing, and I wish I had more things to unbox, but I guess I'll just have to go off and buy more books. I am still reading this one, and I'm looking forward to continuing reading this one. I don't know how I'm going to go with finishing it today, even though I really want to, so I might just have to keep reading this for the next few days because I don't actually know what my next prompt is. So I'm eager to finish this one and then look at my next prompt, but I'll check in later with any more updates about this book and about my next read. Hello, now it's Wednesday, and while I am exhausted, I've also got some good news because I finally finished Cold Days. I'm giving this a 4.5 stars. Initially I was sitting on a 4 stars, like I said in either this vlog or in my previous vlog, that because it has fae and politics involved, I'm not hugely into fae, so when those storylines come about in Dresden books, they don't pique my interest as much as others do. So because it started in a fae-centered story, I wasn't as invested, and it took about 20% for me to get hooked. But then once I was hooked, this ending was absolutely incredible, and it made me feel so many things, and it blew my mind, and it made me energized, and I'm so excited because I finished this and immediately wanted to go out and not only continue Dresden obviously, but read a ton more books and finish heaps more. So I finished this I think yesterday and my mind was blown, and now I'm very excited because I'm almost finished this one too. I've got 100 pages left. I was determined after I finished this one that I should finish my physical read as well, so I tried to smash out a bunch of pages of this one too, and so my reading has been pretty good lately. I've also started the 3rd Joe Abercrombie book, which only recently came out this month, and that is The Wisdom of Crowds, and I'm enjoying it. I'm about 7% into the audiobook, and it's still very much setting things up and reminding you of what's happened previously, and it's a grimdark fantasy for those who are unfamiliar. This is a trilogy that he's started on the back of his other books, so you can read it from A Little Hatred if you want to. You don't have to, you can go all the way back to The Blade itself. Personally, it's how I started, but also I'm realizing that because there are so many characters in this, side characters as well, and all of them are quite significant and have their own roles, I'm thinking that I need to go back and do a massive reread of them all physically so that I get the experience of the audiobook because they're incredible, but I also get more lore and names and significance of the side characters and therefore more meaning to the story in my reread. So that is on future me. At some point I do want to start again, but for the moment I'm partway through the most recent book and I'm really quite enjoying it. I really love Joe Abercrombie's writing style. It's so picturesque and characterized and I love it. So audiobook, really enjoying. Cold Days, finished. This book for the Magical Readathon, almost finished and aiming to finish today. So after that I get to pick another one, and I know I have 2 left on my TBR and I roughly know what books they are, but I don't know what prompts are next, so I don't know what order I'm going to read them in, and so I'm keen to find out so that I can smash those out as well, because it's looking like I'm going to be able to finish the Magical Readathon. So with all that said, that's a very confident statement and my vlog's not finished, so hopefully I don't tank, but we'll see. Hello, it's Saturday now, and I took a couple of days off because I got my 2nd vaccine dose. Now I'm fully vaccinated, but I had a couple of days off because I just felt terrible, but I'm pretty much better now. And I also read a little bit during the time that I had off camera. So I managed, before my dose, I managed to finish The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling, and I adored this. I have so much respect for the author. She managed to balance mental health, relationships with family and with boyfriends, and also with school and future expectations and cultural identity and just personal identity as well. She balanced this so well throughout this book, and to juggle so many themes and to pull all of them off, it was just such a feat to see done well, especially in a YA. I also find that in YA, family doesn't get discussed a lot because it's very much about identity of the self and potentially romance and getting through school, but this one had such cultural roots in family that you just couldn't ignore it, and I think it was done amazingly. Mental health was also touched on and treated very respectfully and seriously and realistically too, there was a character in here that had a bit of a relapse towards the end of the book, and the way that it was handled and the repercussions of it were quite realistic and quite actually a healthy outlook on the way that things were going to be ongoing. It didn't magically fix itself because it was the end of a book. It didn't wrap up in a neat little bow tie, and it was handled and balanced, like I said, incredibly. So I have so much respect for this book. I gave it a 5 stars. I initially predicted that this would be a 5 stars, but given that it's a YA contemporary, I was a little bit iffy on that prediction, but I'm really happy that it followed through and I gave it such a high rating. This did make me cry, it made me emotional, and it was writing a 4.5 stars all the way through, but then the last part of the book made me go, actually no, it's done such a good job, this deserves a better rating than this, and so that's why it got a 5 stars. I'm really happy that I managed to predict that it would be 5 stars, because in the past I've done that and then they've been like 3.5 stars, so ultimately I'm just really chuffed that I finished this. So in addition to finishing The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling, I actually read a Sanderson novella, The State of Silence, I think it's called. I'll put the cover on the screen so that you can see, but it is like a very, very short novella, and it's about this guy who is a ruler of his particular dominion, and he's forced to go on a date with a woman of a particular dominion as well. So both of them are rulers of their respective worlds, and they have to go on a date together so they can procreate and continue both their bloodlines. But it's way more complicated than that, because I think they're living in a simulation. So there's a whole discussion about identity and intent and how much agency you have if all of your decisions are pushed by an outward force to drive the simulation. So it was an interesting concept, but the way that it was pulled off, it just felt like old hat Sanderson writing that I've very much grown past that now, because I really like his Stormlight books. I think they tackle characters quite well. This one felt like they were just kind of cutouts a little bit, like they were caricatures or very flat to me, and that might be the length of the novella, or it might just be that he was still feeling out his writing style then. So I didn't really like it as much. I gave it about a 3 stars. I'm glad I read it because it's another Sanderson thing under my belt, but apart from that, I could have given it a miss, but I wanted to see what all the fuss was about because it is on his catalogue. He's obviously one of my favourite authors, so I just wanted to be informed, and now I am. It's not a massive favourite obviously, but it's one that I'm glad I read, and again I gave it 3. It's more of a sci-fi than a fantasy, but it does walk the path of both. So now for the magical readathon, because that novella didn't count at all. I just read it because I wanted to read something when I was feeling crook in bed recovering from my injection, and I couldn't really hold a book. I was pretty weak, so I just held my phone and kind of just scrolled through it and read my novella. So now that that was done, I have a new book to read on my TBR, because we have passed through The Mist of Solitude, which was to read a standalone, and that was The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling, and that is called The Ruin of Skye, Skye, and it's to read a book with a supernatural element, and for that one I'm going with Arusha and the End of Time. This is a middle grade book by the Readathon Presents label, and it's about Arusha. I believe she has a tendency to stretch the truth in order to fit in at school, and there's something that goes on that Arusha notices, but then nobody believes her, and there is a magical quest involved, and that's really all I need to know for a book like this, because it's going to be quite a quick read. I think the writing is pretty big. Again, it's middle grade, so it's going to be fast paced all the way through, and I'm looking forward to reading it because last year I was like, I want to read more Readathon Presents books, and then I didn't. So now is the prime opportunity to read one, finally, because it's been too long. So hopefully I can get through this because I have the rest of the weekend ahead of me and some of the beginning of next week coming. So with that said, I'm aiming to read this and then maybe read one more book. Although I said I had 2 more books on my TBR for this magical readathon. I've actually got 3. I don't think I'm going to get through the 3rd one, but I could get through this one and one other. So I can't wait to reveal that, but I'll talk to you later. Hello, it is now the 29th of September, so it is a day before this readathon technically ends, but given that it's midweek, I know what the rest of my week is going to look like, and that doesn't really involve too much reading over today and tomorrow because I'm going to be video editing and scheduling and planning instead. So I may as well wrap up the reading vlog now. You're going to see it on the last day of September, and obviously this is the day before that. So I am currently reading Arusha and the End of Time, which was my most recent pick for the readathon. I am just under halfway through it, but I'm so far really enjoying the tone of it. I like also that the formula of this one is in the same vein as Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson books. So there are characters that band together, there is a quest, there are gods, there's destinies, there's all this cool stuff, but it also deviates a little bit from Rick Riordan's setup. So you've got Arusha, and she is a reincarnated demigod, I suppose, and she's got this quest thrust upon her because of circumstance rather than necessarily destiny. And so there are other characters in here that come into play too. There is an animal companion creature, and there are dire straits and moments where Arusha gets to kind of shine and improvise and stuff as well, which is quite fun. So I'm really liking this. I anticipate I'm going to give it at least a 4 stars, if not higher, because it's a middle grade and it's a lot of fun, and that's why I chose it for this readathon. I've just been up and down with doing different things during the week, so I haven't prioritized physically reading. And then currently I'm also listening to 2 audiobooks. So one of them is A Wisdom for Crowds, and I'm about a third of the way into that one. Really enjoying it again, and I feel like the action has now started to kick up, whereas before, obviously when I first started it, it's getting into the setup. But given that this is going to be the last book in the series of the Age of Madness, I anticipate that it's going to climb in terms of drama, action, and violence. And I also think that not all of the characters are going to make it out alive, which is going to be a fun but stressful experience. So I'm enjoying that one. And then I also started Sunreach, which is the next Skyward installment. So it goes Skyward, Starsight, Sunreach, another novella, Cytonic, which comes out in November, and then after that there's another novella. So Brendan Sanderson and Jancy Patterson have both collaborated on these novellas, and they said on their video on Brandon's channel that they'd paced it specifically so that it co-aligned with Cytonic. So the pacing works in order to further scope out that world, especially because the novellas follow the side characters and Cytonic follows Spencer. So they're on kind of different trajectories at the moment. So it's interesting to see the context as well as Spencer's journey herself as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing more. So far I'm enjoying Sunreach, but I'm not absolutely loving it the way I've loved Skyward and Starsight. But I've got an hour and a half of the audiobook left. They're not really that long, so I'm hoping that the end of the audiobook amps up, but Brandon is usually quite succinct with his endings, so I'm gonna see how it goes. But apart from those things that I'm currently reading for the magical readathon, I did have 2 more things that I wanted to read on here, and I'm not going to get to them obviously because this month is about to end and I have my October TBR that I'd like to tackle instead. So the things that I had left over from this are 2 prompts. The first book is My Sister is a Serial Killer, I think. It's an audiobook, it's about 4 hours long, and I picked that up because I think one of the prompts was read a thriller / mystery, and I don't really reach for that, and I was suggested, or recommended rather, that audiobook because it's quite short. Obviously I haven't got to it, so I can't really talk to it, but given that it's October and I've got it on my Audible, maybe I'll slide it into my October TBR. Who knows? And then the last prompt on the list when you actually get to Orilium Academy in the magical readathon is read a book set at a magical school. And for this one I wanted to read Legendborn, and that is obviously one set at a magical college, and it's the first book in an ongoing series. The rest of the books aren't out yet, and I also put that on my 5-star predictions list, so I was hoping to get to it because obviously I'm really excited about it. But it is a little bit longer, and I did leave it towards the end of the readathon. Didn't think I'd quite get there, but that's okay. It's not going anywhere. It's on my TBR. I am excited for it, so I'm hoping to read it this year anyway. But as for the magical readathon, I'm really happy that I read all of these things. Cold Days obviously is not included, but it's included in my general reading month of September. I read a lot more than I was expecting to, and I'm really happy with my progress, and I'm just happy that the magical readathon helped push me and motivate me because I've been struggling a little bit with that lately. So I'm happy that I read all these things. I'm happy I'm still reading Arusha, and I'm just jazzed about my reading in general. So that is the end of this reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching this video. Come chat to me down in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.